I want to talk to you about a really disturbing story. And I got to give credit to the New York Times. And I want to say this. I'm a regular critic of CNN and the New York Times, in large part because I know they can do better. They have always been liberal in their frame of mind and worldview, but as progressives have gone further left, so have these institutions. But occasionally they do good work. And like with CNN, I would highlight their international coverage that other networks just can't do because they don't have the resources. And with the New York Times, occasionally they have some very in-depth and profound reporting. And this is very disturbing. And I need to start this hour by telling you it's disturbing. And I need to remind you that when I got elected to office, it was on an effort to stop human trafficking. It is an issue I care much about. It is an issue as well that I have seen more and more people over the years as the issue has been put within a tribal lens. A lot of liberals who used to care about it no longer think it's a big deal. And so that's why I have to give credit to the New York Times and to Emily Baumgarten-Nunn, the reporter who was vetted with Vice investigators to uncover this. And let me read for you part of this. Anna paced on the sidewalk at 68th in Figueroa. I'm mispronouncing that. Her front teeth missing and an ostomy bag taped down under her hot pink lingerie. She surveyed the intersection in South Central Los Angeles where preteens were hobbling in stilettos and G-strings. It was a Tuesday night this January, and Anna knew that most of the girls longed for a coat or gloves, something to keep them warm, but covering up was not an option. Their eyes were cast down, but their hands waved mechanically at every car, angling for another customer to help meet their traffickers' quotas. Anna was working too. But the years had worn down any visceral anxiety into something more like resignation. Anna was 19, but the girls on the street reminded her of herself and her sister when they were first put on the street for sex. She was 13, her sister was 11. Their story had been unoriginal, at least for the street. Foster kids turned runaways, turned recruits, drawn in by a new friend on Instagram who offered to help them get by. The friend dropped Anna and her sister off at a motel and handed them lacy bikinis. Anna asked what they were for. They needed to turn in $800 each by morning, the friend said. They stood on a corner, shivering. It would take at least half a dozen customers each. By now, Anna had grown accustomed to the protocols of the Blade, a roughly 50-block stretch of Figueroa Street that had become one of the most notorious sex trafficking corridors in the United States. She knew to approach cars from the passenger side and get the money as soon as she climbed in. She knew which motels had rooms set aside for just this purpose, which schools and businesses didn't padlock their parking lots at night. She knew she needed to be dropped back off on the Blade every 30 minutes if she was going to reach her new quota of $1,200. The sameness in the days and weeks and months on Figueroa was such that Anna remembered little of them. The Blade was an 8-minute drive from the University of Southern California in yet another universe. Parents pushed strollers past the traffic girls as they took their own children to school. Amid boarded-up storefronts were a few that catered specifically to the trade, a smoke shop with the banner, "Free Magnum Condoms with any purchase," and a lingerie store named in cursive, "Sluts." Figueroa seemed to be the one street in all of Los Angeles where nobody even honked. Customers waited politely as if in line at a drive-thru to peruse the menu and take their pick. Over the years, the Blade has become much busier than when Anna started. More girls, more customers, more traffickers idling in their Hellcats and Porsches on the side streets, watching to make sure the girls didn't hide any money and didn't snitch. Anna had seen the Blade expand from 3 main intersections in Figueroa to more than 3 miles. She'd met girls brought in from the East Coast and the Deep South, and there sometimes seemed to be 4 times as many minors as before, easy to spot by their over-the-top makeup and unsteady gait. The police helicopters Anna used to notice hovering overhead with searchlights seemed to become infrequent. Eventually, they disappeared. In the shadows, Figueroa had become more violent. The younger the girl, the more customers would pay, which meant preteens were often being robbed and assaulted by groups of older girls trying to make quota. The traffickers who governed the street were worse. Tonight, Anna was waving at cars in front of a tire shop when a trafficker pulled up on the wrong side of the street, climbed out, and beat one of the girls near Anna over the head with a pistol. The girl had probably looked at him wrong, Anna decided. She knew better than to intervene. When he left, Anna plodded over to her own trafficker to ask for a break. The answer was no. Anna took some Percocets and chased them with Hennessy to numb herself. The temperature dropped, and soon she felt herself longing for another customer's car just to get out of the cold. That's the way this starts. And here is the truth. In California, progressive policies have enabled this. Scott Wiener, who is a progressive gay activist and member of the California legislature, pushed for legislation that actually made human trafficking easier to do in California. He's now running against Nancy Pelosi. It is appalling to read this New York Times piece and to understand what's happening. And if you have been paying attention to the views of the left for some time, they are increasingly fine with human trafficking because they believe it's about empowering the women who are actually the victims. The spin from the left is that budgets have been cut, so the Los Angeles Police Department is shorthanded and can't combat it. This is something even some Democrats are saying, the National Guard could actually do something about this. But California actually passed a law, SB 357 from Scott Wiener, that makes it impossible for law enforcement officers to do anything about child exploitation. The New York Times actually does hint at this. Police officers' jobs grew even more challenging when California repealed the law allowing the police to arrest women who loitered with the intent to engage in prostitution. The repeal, known as SB 357, was intended to prevent profiling of black, brown, and trans women based on how they dressed. But when it was implemented in January of 2023, the effect was that uniformed officers could no longer apprehend groups of girls in lingerie on Figueroa, hoping to recover minors among them. Now officers needed to be willing to swear they had reason to suspect each girl was underage, but with fake eyelashes and wigs, it was often impossible to tell. One girl told Vice officers her traffics had explained everything there succinctly. "We run Figueroa now," he said. Why? Because Scott Wiener in the California legislature decided in the name of ending racial profiling that we had to stop the police from randomly arresting women who were loitering on the side of the road to engage in prostitution, which they call sex workers now. It's sex workers. It's not prostitution, it's just sex work. And supposedly it's legitimate and it empowers women and their bodies to make money. That's the way the left views it. And the practical reality is that it empowers human traffickers to prostitute underage girls. This is happening in Los Angeles, California, and across California. Young women, oftentimes runaways, they get lured, drugged, beaten, sometimes killed. In September of 2021, when Anna was 15, a sergeant matched her tattoos to ones he had seen in an online sex ad and began to track her. When she was finally found, the sergeant wept from relief and told her about a woman named Shannon who could help her. Shannon Forsyth ran an anti-trafficking nonprofit called Run to Rescue, which included a recovery house for 4 girls. A spot had just opened up. The Run to Rescue house was not a typical group home, the sergeant told Anna. The organization took no government funding, which meant Forsyth could run the home as she wanted. There were no cell phones, no weekend passes, no revolving door of shift staff. Instead, the girls had live-in parental figures, Forsyth and her husband, and a customized healing plan they worked through as a unit. There were therapists, addiction recovery counselors, nurses, and tutors. The girls kept journals. They navigated conflict at the kitchen table. They took trips to the mountains, the beach, and Baskin-Robbins, sometimes twice a week. Forsyth's home had only one real rule everybody agreed to abide together, no more running away. Anna heard all of this and scoffed. She had lived in plenty of group homes, each with its own set of surprise horrors. She was not interested. The sergeant would have needed to pass Anna off to child services, but there was a warrant out for her arrest. By then, Anna had committed a variety of crimes, some forced by her traffickers, some by her own volition. Instead of a new foster care placement, she was sent to juvenile hall, which brought Forsyth months to win her over. Forsyth called Anna every week to pray with her. She showed up at the courthouse for every hearing, even though she wasn't allowed in the room. She pleaded with her social worker and the judge to sign paperwork they would grant her power of attorney. Anna wanted to know who this odd woman was, this woman who seemed obsessed with her, maybe capable of keeping her off Figueroa. Deep down, Anna wanted that too, and so far, Forsyth seemed to keep her word. After 4 months, Anna relented, and they pulled away from the courthouse in Forsyth's car. Anna noticed the back seat doors were unlocked, but a gut feeling told her not to run. She wound up back on the streets. She had to have 7 surgeries. She was back in the old habits and wounded. A fractured face, a broken back, knocked out teeth, a ruptured colon, and other injuries. She went a month without a shower and her hair fell out. This is the life that she fell into. And Miss Forsyth continued to be persistent and prayed to help. Y'all, this is happening on the streets of the United States. Underage girls being prostituted, while progressives call it sex work and claim it's empowering their bodies. And when you point out the ramifications of their policies, they deny it, they deflect, they get defensive. They say, who are we to judge? Y'all, we have real problems in this country, and a ballroom at the White House isn't one of them. And Democrats want to define themselves in opposition to everything Donald Trump has done. Can we turn our attention to this problem, please, progressives? That the laws progressives in California passed have empowered human traffickers who are trafficking underage girls, and there is high demand and a customer base. Can we talk about that for a minute instead of a government shutdown? Can we talk about that for a minute instead of an east wing of the White House? Can we talk for that for a minute instead of Donald Trump running for a third term? Can we talk about any of these problems, or are we only allowed to talk about Donald Trump? Saturday was the first of the month, which always meant big business. Everybody had their paycheck. Lines of cars wrapped around side streets. The sunset splashed gold and purple against the panes of a laundromat. It was February, but an ice cream truck was playing Santa Claus is Coming to Town, and Anna had already worked 6 days straight, and tonight everything ached. The skin around her ostomy bag stung. A kind men who had driven through each night that week and offered to pray for Anna had not shown up. And she finally got rescued by the Forsyth family again. At least somebody cares. Why don't the Democrats do something? They could fix this, and they've chosen not to. All they care about is Donald Trump. They don't care about these young women on the streets of Los Angeles who are being trafficked. And all they have to do is repeal one law. But they've decided to hold it hostage to the screams of racial profiling instead of the reality of what happens with this law.